On this episode, we talk about the draft date, Seth Rollins becoming champion, then Dean Ambrose, then Reigns gets suspended. What's going on with the Shield? Now, on Byte That. Hey gang, what's going on? Welcome, and you're listening to episode 148 of Byte That's weekly wrestling podcast, the place where we do talk about that, which is the WWE and the crazy, wacky world of wrestling that can change on a week-to-week basis, as we're going to get to. Thank you for always supporting us. We are available every single Tuesday night on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, and if you want to check out this, plus our mock-up WWE Draft, where Keith was the temporary GM of Raw, I was the one in SmackDown, and Ryan was the moderator, and we chose our 15 primary picks. Check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Byte That Cast. If you support the show, if you like us, drop us a 5-star rating or maybe like a 3-star rating, depending on how you love us on iTunes. Anything is appreciated. My name is Juan Velez. I am from the Shining Star of the Caribbean. And to talk about this jam-packed edition of the podcast, not suspended, he is here from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, Keith Poshik. Also not suspended from Boston, Mass, Ryan Savage McNulty. Savage McNulty, that is your name.
I don't know, maybe you botched the Savage. Maybe you should just leave it out next time.
Yeah, man, I guess it's time to maybe fade it out, but what a week already, right? Like, we're just getting started. Yeah, this has been a little bit crazy, so we had WWE Money in the Bank just happen, which, Ryan, you posted your 10-minute review on the channel, giving your overall impressions, and it's a good thing you did that, because we have a lot to talk about, so let's just get right down to what's happening, right? Roman Reigns, this just came out, we're recording at 7 Eastern, this came out about 2 to 3 hours ago. He was apparently suspended for his first ever violation of the WWE wellness policy, and he's out for 30 days, which puts it out to about 3 days before the next pay-per-view, which is Battleground, where they're, scheduled to have a triple threat match. So right off the bat, starting with Keith, reactions about this?
This is insane. The fact that it happened to Roman Reigns, their flagship guy, is on the shelf now. Like, yeah, he's going to be around for the next pay-per-view, but correct me if I'm wrong, but this means he misses the draft. And that is huge as far as I'm concerned.
This has to change everything. I just don't see. How do you build? You were the champion, and you're suspended, right? Like, how does that even work?
Yeah, I mean, some people think someone like a John Cena is maybe immune to the wellness policy, but seeing Roman Reigns get suspended here means that they're serious about the wellness policy and they're serious about keeping the integrity of it, so they're not going to play favorites. If someone violates it, they're going to get suspended. It really leaves an intriguing question of how long have they known about this wellness violation, because it seems so conveniently timed that he's able to drop the belt on a pay-per-view and then leave with just enough time to come back for a title match, which he was set in just before he was suspended.
If I had to guess, I would say that they knew before Money in the Bank, but it's one of those situations where how do you just make the best of this bad situation? So yeah, have Roman lose at Money in the Bank, set up your next pay-per-view match, have him go away and come back. Like, it sucks that it happened, but that's really the best situation they could do, because if they just stripped Roman of the title, like, that could be it. Because just to say it, this won't be the end of Roman Reigns. This isn't going to be like some nail in the coffin. He's going to come back. He's still going to be Roman, but at least it's somewhat salvageable in this situation.
Yeah, and it's not like we know what he got suspended for, right? Some people are saying some of that marijuana. Some are saying, hey, steroid use, that's a possibility. We don't know. But like so many outlets, NBC, Fox Sports, everybody's talking about this. He was your champion. So in some way, right? Like, how much did this change the match of Money in the Bank? Like, Seth Rollins beat Roman Reigns cleanly. Not enough people are talking about that. That's never happened. Yeah, you did call that, actually. So, Ryan, can we have literally one clap for Keith? Just the one. In 3, 2, 1. We got that out of the way. Does that make you feel better?
That's totally going
to
to mess up his editing. But anyway, this definitely was never the plan until this violation happened. I'm pretty sure no wellness policy violations happening. Roman Reigns is winning 100% of the time there, every single time. But because this happened, I think that's why they had Seth win and then Dean cash in, so that Dean is at least cashing in on a heel instead of a babyface to help Dean out a little bit. Because, I mean, look, we saw the whole Battleground poster with Dean with the briefcase, and I don't think that was a red herring. I think they fully intended to have Dean have that briefcase for quite a while, and just things happened, so they had to shuffle the chess pieces around and have something set up for, you know, the next main event. But I think Roman Reigns getting a suspension here, is he still going to be the guy? Most likely, but I think this definitely hurts the confidence that they had in him.
There was something posted online that just blew my mind. How for all this time we've been labeling Roman Reigns to be the next John Cena, right? What if this guy turns out to be the next Randy Orton, which is not a bad thing for him, right? But think about it. Like, Randy's been suspended on multiple occasions. He is a WWE legend. Sounds weird, but he really is. And he's there, right? Like, whenever people see him, they pop for him. They know exactly who he is. And this has to impact WWE in such a way that they got to be careful. Once again, we don't know what he got suspended for, but that stigma is going to be there, right? Like, enough people have talked about this, and you have two guys that you can fall back on. It's not like, hey, it's Reigns or nobody. Now you got Styles, and then you got Ambrose, you got Rollins, you got Cena, as opposed to a couple months before where we were even talking like, you know, if Reigns got injured, what would even happen? I think the conversation's changed a little bit. So do you guys see him as more of a Randy Orton, where he could be that number 2 guy, that really strong and stable number 2 guy?
I don't think that he's going to be positioned that way, at least for a while. I mean, it is a very similar path to Randy Orton, where he was positioned to kind of be the next upcoming guy, and then things kind of got in the way of it, and they moved on to Batista really quick. I mean, they've been a lot more stubborn with Roman Reigns. I mean, if things went the way that they did like 10 years ago, they would have been already done with Roman Reigns at this point. But they're sticking with him. This definitely hurts it a lot more than any crowd reaction, I think, though, because if he gets another one anytime soon, then what's to invest if he gets the third one? They have to fire him. So if he ever hits 2 strikes before he can, you know, use the Randy Orton rule to work it off, then he's really in trouble, because they will be way too scared to ever invest anything in him.
Exactly. I've always thought of Roman Reigns kind of like a modern day Lex Luger, and I don't think that really helps this comparison, where he's the guy that the machine built against all odds, and then you have your people. You could really compare Seth Rollins to Shawn Michaels there, where Seth Rollins can have a match, a 5-star match where he wrestles himself. So I think that's eventually going to play out the same, where guys like Seth, guys like Dean will just naturally rise above Roman Reigns when the machine gets tired of him a little bit. But I don't think that's anywhere in the near future.
I think the closing comment about this that's so important is WWE, don't focus on one guy. Like, you know, we can make the guy jokes as much as we can, but when you only focus on one guy, you don't know what's going to happen, right? In his personal life, like with Jerry the King Lawler. Hey, domestic violence charge. Now, do you want that? With Bill DeMott, we got some things in the past, but when you have the face of the company doing something like this, you have a roster that can really thrive with not just one protagonist. Have a roster that is built like that. And I think, oddly enough, the draft is going to help with that, because the idea now is that you build multiple rosters. So this may not be the issue. So let's pull back a little bit, because we are going to get to the Shield triple threat, which is still scheduled. How is it going to happen? I don't really know how that build-up's going to be. I think Dean and Seth should get some tips from Bray Wyatt. He's an expert of like building a storyline when the guy's not even there. So maybe that happens a little bit. So we got Ryan's impressions about WWE Money in the Bank. So Ryan, it's not that you don't get to talk, but I'm just going to move it over to Keith. Keith, any quick comments about the show?
I think it is that I don't get to talk, but nevertheless, Keith, the floor is yours.
Money in the Bank was an awesome show. Cena AJ tore the freaking house down. To use my Shawn Michaels comparison from a minute ago, I think Seth Rollins had a very amazing match against himself, and it proved to be a great main event. The tag match was very sloppy. That match, I honestly considered it a disappointment. Oh, that end with Gallows and Big E there, where Gallows just standing there like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah, Cass was a little late or something.
So that match came off very poorly, but overall, very good show.
Yeah, Sim, I love the Cena AJ Styles match. I know we don't have a lot of time because the agenda's packed, but that is a match that, like wine, it will get better with time. I know, Ryan, you mentioned in your review, like this was less spotty than the match with Kevin Owens, and I think that was better in every sense of the form. Just a wrestling clinic, and AJ, man, that guy was built for the WWE style. Who would have thought that the TNA built guy was made for WWE? Money in the Bank ladder match, a little bit of a disappointment. I think the show overall was good. I'm going to give it a solid 3 out of 4. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good show.
And Rusev and Titus, very underrated.
I am going to speak one more thing on it, and that was that I think that the way that they ordered the matches was not the best way, because they really backloaded the whole card, whereas like the last half of it was all the matches everyone wanted to see. You know, Cena, AJ, the Money in the Bank ladder match, and then the main event. Whereas normally they'd give you one kind of in each hour. So I think that was the one thing that kind of had the crowd a little too quiet at the beginning of the show.
And I mean, the show went almost 30 minutes over. So I'm hoping that's not a trend. Great. Yeah, that was a little painful. Like WWE, we have jobs that we need to get to on Monday mornings. And for that, we need to like get ready for it. And I don't know, like sleep.
You know, after WrestleMania, though, I'm convinced they don't give a single crap about that.
Yeah. I heard it had something to do with the NBA Finals. Like, they didn't want the main event to be during the end of the game or something, so they pushed everything out. And it's like, okay, I get when you do that for Raw and stuff, but now you're doing it on pay-per-views, man.
Like, wait to sell yourself short as a company. Like, we have no faith in us keeping anybody in here, so, like, we're going to wait for you. Once you end, then we get to end. So that's a little bit of
it's like sad. Just be your own thing. I remember that time a few years ago where I think Cena said something like, "We're gonna do this at halftime," and it was literally like the halftime of some game. Yeah.
Historically, that's happened a lot, which is unfortunate. Once again, for wrestling fans that don't consume NBA or anybody else, they're basically telling you in your face, "Man, you are not the main focus right now." But having said that, now let's get to WWE Monday Night Raw. And as tradition, we always ask you guys on Twitter, Byte That Cast, what did you think about Raw? Just to get a little bit of a contrast or comparison as opposed to what we think. So, with the infamous out of 4 rating scale, 4 out of 4 was actually the top voting at 36%, stating it was freaking great. Then 32% at 3 out of 4. It was quite good indeed. Then 2 out of 4. This is like a really nice sequence here, saying I've had better. Whoa. And 8% at 1 out of 4.
That's interesting wording you made there.
Yeah. Now, Ryan, for that 1 out of 4.
This is what happens when I make the polls, guys.
I feel like you got to be the one to say what's
number 1,
written.
was it 9%? I don't have it up right now.
8%.
8%. It was feels bad, man.
Yeah, Raw was pretty good. I think it was a very solid show. It's one of the rare occasions where we've not talked anything about how we felt about the show before or during the Raw. Usually maybe I'm watching with Keith or we're texting or something. For whatever reason, we were spread apart. I missed you guys. So what you think of Raw overall?
I liked it. One thing that was good about this Raw that we haven't had in a month and a half was a reason to watch the third hour. You know, they gave us something to look forward to. They gave us a great main event, and that had consequences. I also really liked the opening with the Shield, and plenty of good stuff going on here. So finally a good third hour, I think, made it worth, it made you feel motivated to actually stick through the whole show.
Yeah, I agree. It was I really enjoyed that moment where Dean Ambrose came out and people were chanting, "You deserve it" to him. Very cool. Like you said, Ryan, very solid third hour. I personally attribute that to the Stone Cold podcast. So they actually had to try this week so people just don't tune out for the podcast.
Good observation.
Overall, it was a good show.
Man. Yeah, same. Like, I thought it was a really enjoyable show. They progressed with a lot of different things. It's crazy just how the Shield can basically take over the show now. It was a little bit expected. Even we were saying, like, inevitably we're going to get the triple threat Shield match at SummerSlam. Instead, we're getting at a Battleground. How is it going to happen once again? It's just, I don't know. Like, it's like that third guy that was the champion not too long ago is not even involved here. So I guess we really got to start the conversation with our reaction with Ambrose as the champion, which I want to just say how nice it felt as just a fan of the show, just sitting down enjoying Raw, to have a good guy wrestler, right? Like somebody that is a definite babyface, be cheered by the majority of the audience, be cheered by the majority of the infamous IWC. And, like, I'm happy that there's this good guy champion that people get behind, and they were chanting, "You deserve it." WWE,
was Daniel Bryan the last time that happened?
I believe so.
Yep.
That was 2014, 2 years ago.
It's been a while.
Soak that in.
Yeah. Huh. It's great because Ambrose is that guy who's he's been really scrappy, just kind of fighting his way through the mid-card. Every once in a while, he got to kind of scratch the main event, and then he'd kind of go back down to the mid-card for a little while. So it really feels like he's scratched and clawed his way to the top, where very much Rollins and Reigns pretty much stayed in that upper main event scene ever since the Shield ended. So it's really like Ambrose is the one who's kind of had to work the hardest on the card wise to get where he is. And it also helped that it was just really unexpected, even though Ambrose said that's exactly what he was going to do on the Raw before.
Maybe for you guys, this guy called it.
Sure. Okay. You were gifted a suspension for this to happen.
We gave you the
whatever gets the job done. Whatever gets the job done.
Never happened. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if whatever caused the wellness violation, Keith gave that to Reigns in some way. That's right. I'm throwing it out there.
I will neither confirm nor deny these allegations. But yeah, in all seriousness, Ryan, you make a very good point. Like, even ourselves, we kind of wrote Ambrose off, saying, yeah, it's very likely that Dean Ambrose will go through his entire career not winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. But he did it, and it was a very feel-good moment. It shows that, even if you hit a bit of a slump, all hope isn't lost. Like, compare the feelings that we have for Ambrose this week in comparison to right after WrestleMania. Like, it's a complete difference in a short span of a few months, and it's awesome.
It's crazy how Ambrose went from being the top dog in the Shield from day one. Everybody was saying, oh, this guy used to be called John Moxley. He was like an indie darling, comes in, but then once the Shield breaks off, it's almost like he became the third wheel. Now, I brought up my comparison of Reigns and Randy Orton. For me, there's a lot of comparisons to Dean Ambrose and John Cena, and you can sort of see Batista as a Seth Rollins. It's a little weird, but I was watching a lot of WWE Network, the John Cena collection to be precise, this weekend, and it's crazy to see how Cena basically had to scratch and claw. Cena was given nothing. Cena was given the best scenario to fail. Like, he had that one match with Kurt Angle at the beginning, right? But for a long period of time, like, he had a feud with Jericho, but then he had a feud with Billy Kidman just before, and then just terrible tights. He was just a generic babyface, and then he became the Dr. Thugonomics. Like, Cena had a path, right? He wasn't just the guy we see here today. And I think in many similar ways, Dean Ambrose had that, where nothing was handed to him. Like, after the Shield, it was like, hey, like, you're the crazy guy, And we've ridiculed the guy. Like we've said, he's become the parody of a crazy guy. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my God, we've always supported Reigns. Like Dean Ambrose, I should say. Because we didn't. We loved him at the beginning. But there was this like huge gap. There was this huge period of time where we just did not give a crap. But I think this is going to be the opportunity. And like as weird as it may seem, the fact that Reigns is getting suspended here for 30 days has to be a blessing in disguise for him, because him and Rollins cannot get out of the park for 30 days, enough to get WWE to see you don't need Reigns. Reigns can be the third guy. It's perfectly okay. Am I the only one that thinks that?
I mean, I think each guy complements each other. I think you can have all three of them at the top, and maybe one of them ends up transcending into mainstream fame. But for now, it's like, just have these should be your three guys anyway. And that's the direction the company's always been headed. It's just nice to see that Ambrose is kind of finally getting his due. And, you know, with every unfortunate event in WWE, there's always an opportunity for someone else. And this time it happened to be Dean Ambrose. And yeah, like you said, his moveset isn't ideal. Sometimes his character, they make him way too cartoony, but for the most part, everyone likes the guy. It's hard not to like the guy. He's, you know, there's some things that they need to work on with his character, but without question, he's the best one on the mic when it comes to the Shield. You know, Rollins is great, but I think the natural charisma is definitely in favor of Dean Ambrose over anyone else, and I look forward to that because you know, when it really comes down to it, all the top guys in wrestling can always talk. So here's a big opportunity for Ambrose to really set himself apart and maybe, you know, become the dude, which I hope does not become a thing, for the love of God.
It will. It will.
I know.
Yeah, of course it will.
We'll be hearing Michael Cole say it for months.
Indeed.
As long as it's not dude love.
Hey. But yeah, as long as, if we are on a course where the three members of the Shield just trade the title back and forth for the foreseeable future with different combinations of the three in main events, like, there's nothing wrong with that. That is a very awesome road to go down.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. The problem that we've been saying for years should be fixed. Don't have that one protagonist. Wrestling is not a movie. And like before, we had Triple H, Stone Cold, The Rock, The Undertaker, Kane, Mick Foley, like the list goes on and on. We're getting to that point. We're finally, and like, you know, knock on wood, Ryan, whenever it is you can, we're finally getting out of that slump that was the injury thing that plagued us for just so long in WWE. And like, I'm so super happy about that. So that leads us to the WWE Draft. Like, it is going to be happening.
There's the wild card where all of this could fall apart.
Exactly, because like we didn't really have a specific date, but now we do, and that is July 19th. Now, if you notice, if you pull up your calendar on your phone, that is not a Monday. That is actually a Tuesday, because they are doing this on SmackDown once it goes live. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, don't you guys do the podcast on Tuesday? So like, therefore, it would be sort of irrelevant for you guys to do the podcast there when, you know, the meat and potatoes is going to be like right after. Yes, we had that conversation. So WWE is forcing our hand to have to do something a little different. So Ryan, could you talk about that a little bit, sir?
Yeah, so we've talked about before with this whole brand split that we are sticking to Tuesdays by hook or crook, but this draft date is pretty significant. So we have decided that July 19th, during the draft, that we will wait for July 20th for us to record the podcast. So the podcast that week, the week of July 19th, will be up on that Wednesday night. So a lot of you are probably going to be listening to it on Thursday, but it will make the show infinitely better if we're able to cover everything that happens in the draft, as opposed to just talking about Raw and then everything we talked about doesn't matter because the draft happened.
Exactly. So if you don't see a podcast that Tuesday, don't panic. Don't sound any alarms. It's coming just a little later.
Yeah, and it's because it's tough to call, because we don't know what's going to happen on Raw, but that can become completely irrelevant by SmackDown time. So who knows? Maybe like that podcast is dedicated to the draft and that's it, like reactions, because it can change something completely. Or we go like, oh, like that's sort of what everybody expected. So I'm looking forward to that. It's cool that they're doing it on SmackDown, I guess, like
it makes sense considering it's the first SmackDown Live. They always like to do something big for those first new shows, and this is about as big as it gets. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's kind of funny that episode of Raw that week has a chance to be the most irrelevant episode of Monday Night Raw in history, because how do you really commit to anything, any progression when, oh, hey, everything's going to shake up the next night?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll figure out a way. And from their point of view, it's perfectly smart to do it on that live SmackDown. From our perspective, we were like, damn, why couldn't they do it on Raw so we could stick to the schedule? But you know what?
But our hand was forced.
Yeah, they forced our hand, and it makes 100% sense from their perspective.
Now, something that I do believe they will do on Raw, if you noticed on this week's, like last night's Raw, they were pretty clear, even on the WWE website, where the GMs are going to be known by draft time. So at some point between now and July 18th, which is the Raw, we're going to find out who the GMs are. So my guess is that that will be the date. Like that Raw before the draft is going to be when we find out whoever it is. Like we saw people power came out.
I was so
Raw.
happy.
Were you happy?
It was so great. I loved the character of Big Johnny.
I cannot stand him.
Ryan, you don't like people power?
But it was funny. John Laurinaitis is very good at that character because it was the littlest thing, but it actually made me burst out laughing about how Shane was like, yeah, I don't like a corporate yes man. I don't want him running my show. And Johnny was just like, I agree. Basically just crapping on himself, playing the role of corporate yes man. It was amazing.
I cannot stand him. He is just
People
the most
power.
Bland character ever.
That's what makes it so great,
my
though.
voice, Ryan.
You need to stop that right now.
Like for everybody, Ryan's face is red. Like I think do you legitimately hate Johnny Ace or something? What did he do to you?
When I got back into wrestling back in like 2012, right around WrestleMania 28,
around that time,
and he was running Raw and SmackDown. I could not stand him. I was so happy when they finally got rid of him. I am just not a fan. I can't stand his voice, and he was just very boring. And just happy that he's not a GM anymore.
No longer a dynamic dude, but he was on Raw. So, like,
People power lives on through my heart.
Yeah, that. So, like, your heart is a beautiful, marvelous, scary place to be in, Keith. But
it is.
We still don't know who the GM is going to be.
Have you been there?
No
One's
comment
always
about
been
that.
in my heart.
Oh, it feels like we should get some music here, but until further notice, we still don't know who the GM is going to be.
So, real talk, is there any chance it's not Shane and Stephanie?
Like, it can't be. The whole, like, wrestling logic. If you say you're going to do something, yes, Dean Ambrose, I get it. So that's a good example of, like, maybe this doesn't work. But Shane keeps saying, I'm going to run both shows. He's not going to run either one, or maybe there's like a co-GM thing with somebody else. But that's my estimate so far.
I feel like Shane's just going to go back to his old job pretty soon. I don't think they ever intended for him to kind of have a permanent gig, so I'm really not sure. Maybe he is staying, but it's just weird because they keep saying like, "Oh, I'm running SmackDown. And then the next week it's something different. So I feel like neither of them are going to run SmackDown because they've both said it now, and it hasn't been like an official thing at all.
But that's how it always goes with the McMahon things, and then it ends up being the most disappointing outcome where, Shane will get SmackDown and Stephanie will get Raw, and that'll be the end of it.
That is true, my friend, as unfortunate as it may sound. So why don't we talk about something unorthodox or something happy? Let's bring some smiles, hopefully, because I really don't know what you guys feel about this. So the Wyatt family came back during Raw, right? Nobody really knew about that. At least I didn't know about it. They come out. And then, in the moment Big E's voice came through the PA system, I marked out. Like, I gotta admit, I didn't know I wanted a New Day Bray Wyatt family feud so badly, but I do, and it's here, and I'm happy.
And now that you've said that, I want to see the New Day versus the Wyatt family on Family Feud.
Ooh.
This is interesting because, I'm going to completely ignore that. Because, all right, you just got the Wyatts coming back, and they before they left, things were like a little weird with them. They were like teasing this babyface thing. But if they're going to come back with a mean streak, I feel like feuding with the New Day kind of might make a joke of them. And as much as I love how it's going to be entertaining, I don't know if long term how it's going to be for the Wyatt family. I'm going to have to wait and see, because I am looking forward to it. It's just how it's going to affect the Wyatt family's character moving forward.
See, here's the deal. The Wyatt family is never going to be threatening again. Like, this whole thing of taking them completely serious, how many times must we have that conversation of one more feud?
Say no more. You're absolutely right. Let's just have fun with it, because the Wyatt family's just been done for a while.
And you know what? That's honestly the best approach. They even kind of teased it a little bit during that segment where Xavier Woods looked like he was getting a little possessed or something like that by Bray Wyatt. Like, get away from that serious Wyatt family. Get away from the freaking dropping lightning and making pyro go off because you're feuding with the Undertaker Wyatt. Go back to that and get away from this serious stuff. Make it so Bray Wyatt possesses people or whatever dumb thing you want to do like that. Let's go in that direction.
Yeah, like, I believe that was always the best direction, because, like, we bring this up every now and then. Oh, okay, Ryan's not in love with it.
Let projections come out of a dumb lamp.
Do that now. But I'm saying you could have had Bray Wyatt as like the top heel in the damn company, but you threw it away. You could have had it. You could have had a serious top heel contender, but they threw that out. So I'm saying now, given the circumstances, given how many times they've given up on the Wyatts, do it all now. Do all the crazy early 90s hokiness all you want now, because there's really nowhere else to go.
Wrestling is not real. So
what?
Yeah, I mean, it's something every now and then we bring up. We break people's hearts and not faces, but it's part of the nature of this. When you're with the New Day, you need to be an entertaining storyline. Like, and I'm not saying entertaining like, so this is going to be a deep dark feud. I'm saying like, I got to laugh at some point, or I got to be, tongue in cheek where I'm kind of laughing at myself. And I see that with the Wyatt family here. And I believe at some point that's actually going to be a blessing more so than a curse, because like we're talking about what's happening with Eric Rowan's ass, and why is everybody talking about this? Have you guys seen this online?
I saw some drawing, but I have no idea.
Like, I don't even know how I transitioned to this, Keith. Like, your face makes me think, no.
Is this a timestamp on the agenda?
Probably.
No, like,
but it was just, it started from that whole thing, and then people blew it out of proportion, making, like, stylized pictures of Eric Rowan's
Am I going to regret Googling this right now?
It is going as far as to, like, screenshots, just close-ups of his ass, and I'm like, what? Like, when did this happen? Like, why was I not mentally prepared for the ass of Rowan on my face?
You'll never be mentally prepared for that.
Damn. Well, it's happening. But
why is this a thing?
Upside down Sheamus has booty. What can you say?
You know the sad thing about this, Ryan? You know the sad thing? This is the most relevant the Wyatt family's ever been, or Eric Rowan for that matter, ever. Like, this ridiculous thing. And honestly, keep doing it. Because if you're not even going to go this route, but then you're not going to go the super serious route, then either do this or get him off my screen.
Put this in perspective. Eric Rowan wrestled The Rock at WrestleMania this year, and he's more over from the New Day talking about his booty.
Well,
oh yeah,
he's gonna be on the cover of Bootios.
He is. So before we break off the show into talking about the Stone Cold podcast, I would like some quick reactions about Sasha Banks finally going back to Raw. She's been wrestling in Superstars and Main Event, and she's been on Up, Up, Down, Down. She's been everywhere but the main show or storylines. We don't really have time to talk about Natty becoming a baddie. Natty's a baddie, it rhymes, so I guess it has to work or something.
And that's it. I'm done.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think there's anything else to talk about.
Yeah, like the Natty thing, I'm going to give it a week. I'm going to give it another week because I don't like
Although
how it really happened.
It feels bad to be Becky Lynch. It's just, everybody betrays her.
Everybody betrays her.
Everybody betrayed me. I'm fed up with this world.
Sasha Banks, it's awesome that she's back, but this is a case where it's all about follow through. Like, great, awesome, you're back on Raw. What happens next? If they do nothing with it, then it'll kind of be like, whatever. But if something actually interesting happens from Sasha Banks' return, then I'm all for it.
I kind of feel like I care a lot more about Becky than I care about Sasha right now because, I've actually seen Becky doing stuff on TV where I don't know why they've kept Sasha away for so long, and maybe it's better to have her not do anything than to do things that they don't consider relevant. But it's kind of like they're just going off of the crowd cheering for Sasha, whereas I feel like Sasha hasn't done enough on Raw for me to actually care.
Agree completely. Like, I'm not sure why they did it so randomly.
They're just feeding off the hype, really.
Yeah, my situation here is that, the Charlotte Dana Brooke thing has been a little bit lukewarm. Like, it's happening, cool, but I don't feel like whatever reason WWE chose to stall this. Like, the Sasha, you're not even here, but then you come back and you're a big deal. I felt like, okay, cool, she's back, now what? But shouldn't Becky be the relevant one? I get it. Now she's in a storyline with Natty, but if she's been through all this, then shouldn't she get the title shot? Or why? So why are people just beating people up and then that becomes a storyline with Sheamus and now Natty? Are they gonna pair up? Who's gonna get randomly beaten down next? There's so many questions, so confused. I guess we got to just sit down and think long, hard about it, but think not too hard, because say we have the draft coming up and you're scared, who's gonna go where? Is Roman Reigns even gonna be drafted? Is he going to go from 4 Horsemen to Raw?
Do they even have enough money to pay? Oh, you're already doing it, damn it.
Oh, that's what 12 years of talking to each other about wrestling does to you. But yeah, on the YouTube channel, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we do have a WWE draft
You got
video.
the 4 Horsemen to Raw in there, man. I can't believe all these years we've never fit that in. If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, it was a mess up by Nancy Grace when she was talking about the He Who Must Not Be Named situation from 2008 or something like that. She was talking about someone moving from Raw to ECW or something, and she was like, he got a demotion from 4 Horsemen to Raw. Is that right?
4 Horsemen to Raw, man. Yeah, that's what led to deep, dark things. But something that's not dark is our draft video. Keith was the GM of Raw. I was the GM of SmackDown. Ryan played moderator, and we picked the 15 primary focus people thing that would be the
Great
priority.
Explanation.
Thank you. That would be the priority for our respective shows. So check that out. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback. Let us know which brand you would watch based on the roster.
On the topic of feedback, I have been reading all of your feedback out there, and thank you all for every single comment. I'd just like to defend myself. I have a much more stable show than Juan's. Juan's is flashy. Juan's is cool. Mine will stand the test of time. Let me ask you, when you build a house, do you want to build something cool looking and flashing that won't even make it through the first storm? Or do you want to build something with a solid structure that you know will be there for 50 years?
See, the problem,
Think
Keith,
about that.
The problem is that if the architect building that house gets a wellness policy, the house doesn't finish getting built. So there is no house.
If your architect ends up with a wellness policy, guess what? You got enough structure that it don't care.
Yeah, not to spoil anything, but I think Keith actually has a pretty stable architect on his team. And hey, I even saw some hashtag Team Ryans in the comments, all right? I did such a good job moderating that people thought my roster was the best. I guess I get everyone who isn't drafted, so I probably have the best roster.
So you have a
massive roster, yeah. And this Friday we have a new video coming out talking about a wrestling manager. So it's Ryan Hayden Fox, who was in a previous video on the channel talking about what makes a great wrestling theme song. So it's the three of us. We talk about wrestling managers.
What makes a great wrestling manager? Oh, wait, no, never mind. You're right. Ignore that. Carry on.
What? Okay. Anyway, so that's happening this Friday. We talk about that, sort of comparisons. Should WWE bring a wrestling managers back? So get ready for those comments on Friday. Now, episode 148. We're just 2 weeks away from the big 150, which takes place on July 5th, based on the calendar. And expect a lot of big news. We're preparing the brand new ByteThat.com website. We're preparing for a lot of information to figure out ways that we can grow alongside everybody that listens and supports the show, whether it be on iTunes or whether it's on video format. And Keith is just dying on me. You okay, buddy?
I'm good.
You're good? All right, awesome, man.
All right.
I got the plugarinos out of the way. That's what we wanted to talk about. Okay, so before we get to the Stone Cold podcast with AJ Styles, which was phenomenal, I may add, this draft apparently requires a lot of people. And there's been rumors that WWE didn't realize just how much this meant in terms of you split up the rosters, maybe you don't have enough star power to really lead each brand in a way that keeps people tuning in. So
sounds like a wise business decision to me.
Yeah, like you just decide something and you go, wait, I don't have enough people for it. We got to make some phone calls. So among the people that have been rumored to be getting phone calls are MVP, Carlito, maybe Shelton Benjamin's going to come back after like the 50th rumor that he's going to be an entrant in the Rumble.
Yeah. I can barely take those seriously at this point. He's probably going to come back at the Royal Rumble.
Shelton Benjamin, I just rule out at this point.
Yeah, so even...
And watch them debut next week.
Exactly. So that is a possibility. Even Stevie Night Heat, Stevie Richards, the Stevie Richards, not the other one, may be showing up at some point. But the one that people have been clamoring for years is the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, who has admitted that there have been conversations between him and Triple H about a possible return. So guys, how would you react if Kurt Angle came back with today's WWE as possibly a farewell tour? Because, I mean, I don't know. Like, the guy has health issues historically.
If Kurt Angle can still go and can still be healthy doing it, it's incredible. I could list off a laundry list of dream matches that would be possible. But if he's not healthy, if it's not like a smart idea, then I don't think it should happen.
Yeah, I mean, those doctors have to clear him, and I think WWE might have stricter doctors than most places. The thing is, what I don't really like here is the fact that he was, it was like Mark Madden, he was doing an interview with him or something like that, and he just tells people, oh, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, giving away any big surprise. I mean, that's a huge return. Why is he just giving that away in an interview? I didn't really like that. And also that he really left WWE on bad terms that I think a lot of people don't realize. Someone did a great post about a month ago that they timelined out like all the events that occurred with Kurt Angle. And what really happened was they let him go because he was in a really bad place with the amount of painkillers and things that he needed, and he was not healthy. So they ended up releasing him with an open door saying, when you get healthy, you're welcome back anytime. And he ends up going to TNA instead. So I think that left a bad taste in their mouth for a while, and that's why Kurt Angle hasn't been rushed back or welcomed back so openly, so easily. So I'm still a little weird on, is he even really going to come back? I don't know.
I do believe he's going to come back. I'm hoping it's for a set amount of time. Like we've talked off air about this because Kurt Angle is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like most of my favorite matches involve him, or pay-per-views. Like his match is one of my highlights. So I'm hoping we get to see something back, but I don't know, man. Like I'm worried, And plus, like, do we want to bring back a bunch of people from the past? I get guys like Kurt Angle is maybe a rare exception, but have this whole thing where, hey, 2006 is today's 2016. Like, I don't know if I like that.
You know, this conversation becomes so interesting because we're like, yeah, Kurt Angle should come back, but Kurt Angle would be a part-timer at best. It almost leads back into the whole part-timers taking up full-timers slots, and that's where it becomes very muddy.
Yeah, I mean, this is supposed to be the new era, and I thought that was the whole point of the brand split was we're going to split up the rosters and we're going to push all these young guys. And now you hear, Meltzer saying, oh, we're calling up all these 40-year-olds and stuff. And it's like, we're just going to end up right back where we were. Like, you're supposed to be investing in youth. You got enough of the old guard there. Randy Orton's going to be coming back. You have John Cena. You got Big Show and Kane if you really want to use them. And then you have the members of the Shield who are like basically the main event scene right now. And I feel like you got a good base there to work off of. Sure, maybe you call in a few names, but I really don't want to see too many. And Kurt Angle's fine because like you said, Keith, I can't see this guy working a full schedule. Put him in a few dream matches. Let him face Seth Rollins. Let him face John Cena. And then, be done with it. Maybe even Brock Lesnar again, just for old times. If Brock Lesnar doesn't completely break what's left of Kurt Angle in half. I mean, let's be honest, guys. We were talking in like 2006. How is this guy still going with the shape that he was in? And the fact that he's still wrestling today is beyond me. And I mean, he still goes at such a great level too.
And wrestling
I don't know
top-notch
how that
matches
is physically possible.
Yeah, it's borderline terrifying that Kurt Angle can do what he does.
Like, he's in a natural human being, but for context, just like 2 weeks ago, he was wrestling Zack Sabre Jr., who's going to be one of the entrants in the Cruiserweight Classic. So here's a guy that's very much active. Like, Kurt Angle, for whatever reason, I'll never forget there was this Gail Kim interview where she was saying, like, after wrestling, he would sit in a wheelchair backstage because the guy couldn't walk by himself. So, like, that always just traumatized me. The idea of, like, I would love to see you back because, and don't become like the all-out wrestling machine. I loved it when we had Goofy Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle with New Day and all other stuff is going to be great because when you get to the ring, you're awesome. Like, have that balance. Don't just be a one-dimensional character, but I'm just afraid that it's going to be, like full-time. He's going to be blown out.
And no, I don't think they let him go full-time.
Yeah,
I really think he should just come back with one WrestleMania match and that's it. Give him one farewell tour, 1 or 2 matches.
Or just put him even on the Brock Lesnar schedule. He shows up for WrestleMania, he shows up for SummerSlam, and maybe he shows up somewhere in between.
Just don't have him do the stink schedule. Lose, retire. Don't, please.
Jeez. Hey, he won that one Raw match.
Yeah, that one Raw match, but that's not the topic here. Let's get to talking about the Stone Cold podcast for the working man on the network with the phenomenal AJ Styles. I love this podcast. Like, something about the energy was so positive, and like let's say it right now. We even got a couple of tweets asking us, will they bring up TNA? And I said no. There is no way. Like, by name or by reference. We got a TNA reference.
We got a Dixie Carter reference.
Yeah, and not just that. We got pictures of AJ in the TNA Asylum, in the TNA Arena with the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Like, 2016, man. 2016 is the craziest year in wrestling history almost. What you guys think of the interview?
I really enjoyed it. I was very surprised by the TNA references too. I could just picture Vince McMahon just like gritting his teeth and just turning red the entire time during that TNA conversation. Because it was so weird. It was so weird to hear them talking about Dixie Carter and Jeff Jarrett and Panda Energy and all of that stuff. But I think the reason that any of that is allowed is because in this story that AJ's telling, WWE wins. It's like they talk about Samoa Joe. Oh, look where he is now. They talk about AJ. Look at him. And then you talk about things like New Japan. Oh, look, where's Anderson? Where's Gallows? Where's Nakamura? They're all here now. So it really still paints WWE as king. So I think that's why they let it all happen.
See, I just looked at it from the angle of TNA is just so below WWE now. I'm not saying it's a bad product, but it'll never be in that place where it's competition anymore. So mention it, sure, why not? Get people buzzing like, oh my God, they talked about TNA. It's nothing but good press from that. And it was an amazing interview.
It's always been, though, the forbidden territory, though, because they'll talk about, on at least during Raw and stuff, they'll talk about New Japan and they'll name drop Ring of Honor, but they never say TNA. They always say, oh, he was in Florida or whatever, or around the United States. So that's why it was weird to hear TNA actually
And I don't
mentioned.
think we'll see that on Raw. There won't be some change where they mention TNA
agree.
openly. It'll just be that one-time thing. It's the Stone Cold podcast. They'll keep it edgy. And did you guys get this
Vince
feeling?
McMahon has their library in his hands.
Exactly. Do you get this feeling that whenever it's a live podcast, Stone Cold just cares less and less and less about following the rules? I love it so much.
There were two parts where I just laughed out loud. Like, he dropped 2 F-bombs, and then like he was saying, hey, like, you guys subscribe, you got to get a minimum 2 F-bombs a month, and something else. Like, he said tongue in cheek, and then like almost winked directly at the camera. It was about like
calling wrestling and sports entertainment or something like that. Like, I'll never get used to calling this sports entertainment, and just kind of look dead into the camera.
Yeah. Man, like, still, who would have thought, like, after all this time, Stone Cold, like, the rattlesnake, this guy that comes out with beer cans and everything, like, what an incredible storyteller in the interview. I really enjoyed how, AJ promoted the interview during Raw, which always to me feels weird, like, you're on character here, but you're not there. But the interview wasn't really about the character. It wasn't until the end where they talked about whether AJ likes being babyface or heel, but it was more so about his story, how, his wife is his high school sweetheart, his decision-making process into going around the whole world. And like, as much as they brought up TNA, because let's face it, around everything, he was interviewed already by Jericho, but this was really the time where, are they going to bring up TNA in a WWE product? Because the Jericho thing is its own thing. They did a really good job of downplaying TNA to the point where it didn't seem like a shoot interview. It just seemed like that is a stepping stone, to the point where they're almost conditioning WWE fans to go, oh, that guy from TNA is great. I would love to see him in WWE. Like, they have the mindset of the fans. Even with this interview, everybody else is just going to be good enough to come here because they don't finish growing out there. They grow here. And AJ is the best example we will ever have in the next decade or even 2 decades, considering how much of a TNA staple the guy was.
And you are 100% right. I personally left that interview thinking to myself, man, why is Christopher Daniels not in NXT right now?
That is the one guy, right? Like, I know Daniels is definitely older. He's older than AJ, if I'm not mistaken. And like, because Frankie Kazarian, which he brings up, he did have his tryout. He did have a run as Frankie Kazarian and Velocity in WWE. But Christopher Daniels, such a shame. Some guy that gets brought up a lot and never had that run. And I don't think he will, because like, he is like 42 or something. So he's even older. He's like 4 years older than AJ. But yeah, any closing comments about this?
Give me more Stone Cold podcasts like that. Move away from the whole Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels slump that you went into, and just give me that every couple of months and I'll keep subscribing.
Yeah, when are we going to get The Undertaker? They talked about that in the press release like over a year ago.
Right. I think WWE just went, man, did we give that away for $9.99? That's got to be $12.99. We got to give that away for. But when that interview happens,
that's
really
going to be
hoping,
a big one.
Like, if this is any indication of how far they are willing to go with interviews, sign me up. Have it be this exact same format, because it was freaking awesome.
So no offense to Mick Foley or Chris Jericho, who have filled in the past, but you just can't hold a candle to Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's nobody that's on that level.
Storyteller in the ring, storyteller for the working man. Now, gang, every week we ask you to ask us questions, and you bring them to us on Twitter, Byte That Cast, with the hashtag AskBT. on email, not at email, on email, bytethatcast@gmail.com. Or if this experience is being lived through the YouTube channel, simply drop a comment on this episode, which is 148 for next week. Although with the week-to-week things that are happening in WWE, I know that some of the questions may become outdated, but we are always welcoming them. So, Mr. Poshik, take it away.
And take it away I shall. So our first question comes in this week from the Cynical Cypher on Twitter, who asks, what things, be it games, movies, matches, or anything, do you all believe have been the most disappointing things of this year? So let's keep it wrestling. What is the most disappointing
I was going to
wrestling?
go down the line. I had things in mind. All right, well,
then let's not keep it wrestling.
All right, for games, I'm gonna have to say, even though it was basically last year, but WWE 2K16 was actually a pretty big disappointment for me. I was expecting a lot more in the My Career mode. I wanted it to be so much more, and it was just disappointing. So you could actually watch my not to be all pluggerino here, but I did that 5 features I want to see in 2K17. I really detail what I didn't like about the current game. For movie, even though I did enjoy it, it's got to be the Warcraft movie, because I just wanted it to be so much more than it was. And I wanted it to just be a huge hit so that we could get more movies so we can get to the real good stuff, because they haven't even gotten to that yet. And matches, I'd have to say, was the AJ Styles Jericho matches. They just weren't what I wanted them to be, and they were just a disappointment for me. And once AJ moved on to other opponents, that's when I was really started enjoying AJ's work.
So not to crap on your answer, but anything that isn't Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose is quite simply the wrong answer.
No, that's my pick. Man, you always have a tendency to bring up like what I'm going to bring up. But yeah, so spoilers, for me, it's that. Because we talked about that as the match we were looking forward to the most at this year's WrestleMania. And it was the match I enjoyed the least, to the point where I have rewatched that WrestleMania and I skipped through that match. I didn't even watch it. I don't care to watch it. And now Dean Ambrose is our champion. So I'm slightly concerned about that. As far as video games, I haven't played it, but it just came out recently, and I'm so surprised that Mighty Number 9 is getting such negative reviews and feedback and errors. For those who don't know, Mighty Number 9 is a game made based by a lot of the creator of Mega Man, and it is in the style of Mega Man, and that's about as good as it gets, apparently. And it was kickstarted, and a lot of people regret that. So I would say that's quite the disappointment, because that kills off a lot of Kickstarter stuff. So that cost me to stop kickstarting things, because I kickstarted 3 different video games that I never received because they completely stopped developing them. So damn you, Mighty Number 9. Damn you.
Damn you indeed. I'm trying to think. Yes, movie.
Oh man, for movie, like honestly, I haven't watched a lot of new movies this year. I'm sort of watching more old stuff. I'm just disappointed there's not a Ready to Rumble 2. I'm just going to throw that out there.
But that's living in like a constant state of disappointment.
Every day.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of games and movie-wise. It's this weird thing that's happened to me more than something recently. More than it's happened more. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get you.
Where I'm just not having as much free time. You have to be very picky about what you watch, what you want, or what you want to spend your time doing. So I haven't really had that many disappointments this year, because I've just been... my expectations are low, and then I very carefully choose what to spend my time doing. Like the new movies I've watched were Deadpool, and I loved Deadpool.
Oh, so good.
Civil War was amazing.
So you haven't walked out on any more dates recently?
No, not recently, but that's a whole other story. And same with games, like all the new stuff that I've played, I've enjoyed. Yeah, I don't really have any disappointments. And as far as...
It's been a good year.
Excuse me. Yes, and you know, all around it has been a pretty good year so far as entertainment goes. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, matches... If your answer is not Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose, you have not thought about it hard enough, because that is one of the most disappointing things to happen in wrestling in a very, very, very long time.
All right, well, I just want to provide some variety for our audience, all right?
You can provide that I can't talk anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happening here.
Move on to the next question,
right.
man. It's okay.
Thanks for the question. Our next one comes in from True Prince of Pro, who asks...
Welcome back, sir, to the questions.
Yes, hello. Many wrestlers, most recently Sanjay Dutt, have attempted to make music. I wanted to know who your favorites were that had a little bit of a music career, and who would you like to see attempt it? So before we answer, Juan, you have 60 seconds to talk about Grandmaster Sexay's album.
Oh my God.
We actually reviewed. Okay, so Grandmaster Sexay has the greatest or worst album in history. Like, forget wrestling. It is so bad. We almost got like a copyright thing because I played a little bit on the podcast. But if you want to torture yourself, just look up Grandmaster Sexay album and forget the titles of the songs. They're all based on wrestling, and they are worse than his wrestling career. Like 5 times worse than his dad getting a domestic violence charge and him getting a wrestling career that WWE referenced and didn't care when Grandmaster Sexay came back to Raw and people just were like, who are you? That. Now, my actual answer, since I'm already talking, I'm going to say Ron Killings, a.k.a. R-Truth. Why? 2 things. A little bit of a cheap answer, but I'm going to do it anyway. Number 1, there's 2 reasons. Number 1, he sang the same damn song for about 10 years and still does it. Like the whole what's up thing. People over there, what the, like, I didn't know all I had to do was say what's up consistently to
Why do you always throw a lisp in your voice whenever you sing that?
I don't know, because I can't do the accent, I guess.
This is your favorites, by the way.
No,
He's
asking. I love it. I've grown to love it. And like he's
seems like you're trashing it, but go ahead.
But let me get to the number 2, man. The number 2 is because this was a song, technically. While Ron Killings, aka R-Truth, was in TNA, he made a little song about John Cena. About how he wanted to beat him up and that John Cena smells like doo-doo. And like I just don't know if there's any other wrestler that has sang something that's not Macho Man that is as good as that.
I remember that song. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's just like rushing back. We gonna knock your blocks off.
On Spike TV.
It is right here for WWE.
We've been waiting for... Okay, we need to stop. Ryan.
All right. For my song, Keith, all I gotta say is I read it in the papers. I saw it on TV. I guess there'll be one empty seat when I wrestle at Wembley. I used to tear my shirt, but now you tore my heart. I knew you were a Hulkamaniac right from the very start. There is a song in Hulk Hogan's music album, whatever the hell he did that in the 80s, called The World Just Lost Another Hulkamaniac. And it is the most ridiculous, hilarious song that's supposed to be this powerful ballad.
I mean, let's be real. It's no I Want to Be a Hulkamaniac.
Oh, that is another
fantastic
song on that.
You know, Jimmy Hart, like, I called my girl on the phone last night. Her mother said she was gone for the night. When did this turn into karaoke?
Yeah, I mean, we gotta give credit, though. John Cena's rap album, actually, it wasn't that horrible. It wasn't that bad.
No, it's actually really good. If you take away the lens of it was John Cena that's singing it, it's actually really good.
Yeah, no, it's not bad.
Yeah, no, I would say that the John Cena album is
Be a Man Hulk.
Be a Man
Randy
Hulk is
Savage.
my 100% answer when Hulk Hogan, when Randy Savage put out a rap targeted towards the Hulkster. It is the greatest piece of entertainment that has ever been consumed by man. So be a Man Hulk. And who would I like to see do it? I think Bo Dallas has a career in freestyling, so I feel that he should really pursue that if the whole wrestling thing doesn't work out.
I want to see Xavier Woods do it. He even did that little on his YouTube channel way back when he did that snacks on snacks song or whatever. Like, I'd like to see more from him.
I just like to see Neville as the backtrack for Bo. He just keeps saying Bo.
Bull.
It's time to move on.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Promo Neil, who says, "Hey fellas, hello. Can you name some of your favorite tag teams that have two names or words mashed up? So names like The Club or the Brothers of Destruction do not count. Also, do you think Breeze and Fandango's name should have been for Breeze? Yes, it should have, but hey, copyright."
And they don't want to be given free advertisement or something.
Exactly.
What? So favorite teams that had their names mashed up.
The easy answer is The Rock and Sock, even though it's not The Rock and Mankind, which I guess doesn't really count then.
Team Hell No, you put as an example, probably has to be of the ones off the top of my head, because the names I'm thinking of are like tag teams like Rybaxel and stuff, and they weren't exactly my favorite team.
See, now this is where I am at an advantage because I used to watch WCW. And WCW will like to get creative with them. I have 3 examples that just jumped at the top of my head when I read this. So these are really cringy. So get ready for this. Number 1, this happened at around 1994 between Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, and Paul Roma. They were named Pretty Wonderful because Paul Roma was called Pretty Paul Roma and then Mr. Wonderful. So Pretty Wonderful, right? Now I'm going to get worse. Buff Bagwell, right? Like Buff and the Stuff and Scott Norton. They were called Vicious and Delicious. And here's the last one. This is I don't know if this is as bad, but it also involves Buff Bagwell, not Judy. The team of Buff Bagwell and Lex Luger. Totally Buff. WCW always had these awful tag team names. And like, I love them. It explains so much about me.
It really does. More and more, I dig deeper into this why Juan is the way he is because of WCW Hole. And by the end of the year, I'm going to know everything about you. I'm going to know how you think.
Vicious and delicious.
Vicious and delicious. I could give an answer, but nothing will top that. So I will choose to pass. But thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Renus M, who says, "Do you think that the internet, YouTube, and wrestling podcasts are killing the WWE? I say this because many fans have said that they want to not watch Raw or SmackDown." Let me try that again. I say this because many fans have said that they are not watching Raw or SmackDown and want to know what happens, so they just tune into your podcast, or, by the way, thank you, or the WWE YouTube page, or something along those lines.
We are killing wrestling right now. Like right now, Ryan. And you're partially involved in the process. How do you feel about that?
How do I feel? I feel like that we are not killing the industry. Actually, things like a podcast and YouTube means that people are still interested. It's just the show is not exciting enough for them to actually be compelled to tune in. The fact that they're listening to anything means that the interest is still there. They just need a little bit more to get them to watch what's on TV. So I think it's just the matter of the show's not exciting enough for people to really want to tune in. So that's what they need to work on.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that whenever you listen to a podcast, like I listen to podcasts outside from wrestling. A good example would be Giant Bomb. Giant Bomb talks a lot about video games that I've never played, but I love to hear about them because I can figure out if I'm going to be interested. And I think the wrestling fan, especially if you're somebody that's watched for over a decade, maybe you feel a little bit oversaturated. So you listen to the podcast, whether it's this one or any other one, then there's that week that you feel like maybe like this is that week, right? With the whole Dean Ambrose thing where you go, oh, let me watch that because those guys tend to not enjoy when they do X or Y, but they went to different routes. So let me give that Raw a shot. So when you remove the element of wrestling and figure out there are movie podcasts that go the same format, wrestling, collectibles, video games, it's a matter of figuring out a platform so you can figure out other ways that you can enjoy the content that you already consume or are used to and want to go back to it, and you're just waiting for when.
Exactly. When it comes to wrestling podcasts and stuff like that, there's definitely a place for them. I never like it when they intertwine the two. Like, keep the wrestling show being fun wrestling stuff, and then keep the podcast, the serious stuff, the behind the scenes look, the interviews, the stuff that you have to look outside of the actual show itself to find. And if you want it, it's there. There's absolutely a place for it. The thing that I think is killing WrestleMania, and I've said it 100 times, social media is ruining wrestling. It is taking away all of the magic, and it needs to go away.
It's that you're like an old man who's just behind the times or something. It ain't going away.
Superstars should not tweet. I still believe that.
Maybe that. I could see your point there, but social media has become an experience now. Any football games or other popular TV shows, people are live tweeting during it. Yeah.
From a fan to fan point, yes, social media is great. But when it comes to superstar to fan interaction, or, hey, I can look what Tyler Breeze is doing on a Wednesday outside the show sort of interaction, I think it is slowly killing wrestling. It is taking away all the magic.
Because you don't see like other TV shows where, the the actors have their own Twitter accounts and live their lives, so never mind.
But even the
Wrestling's
actors,
just weird.
like, if Leonardo DiCaprio has a Twitter account, he's not tweeting as Jack from Titanic.
Here's the best example. Natalya turned heel on the pay-per-view, right? And on Raw, she did the same thing.
Jack died.
No, I cannot let that die, man.
Spoilers. She could have shared the damn piece of wood, but she was too selfish. All right.
No, man, I gotta hate on this. So she's super nice on social media. So just a little while ago, she was tweeting pictures hanging out with Cesaro and everybody, and I'm like, that's the Twitter account is not Natalie Neidhart. It's Natalya. It's the character that I'm following, right? Why do wrestlers not have their own private social media account and one that, is the character? I get it's more work. Maybe they don't want to do that, or how, where do you differ? But that's an issue because
they make them get an account.
Yeah, they make them. But here, an example like Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks has been gone, quote unquote, for a while, but she is on social media every 30 minutes.
And she's like, I'm not gone, guys. It's like, well, way to kill the suspense.
Yeah, exactly. So it's at what point do you stop being the character and you become the person? Or is there even a difference with today? It's a tough thing. And I don't think WWE has figured out the difference, because Natalya is the best example recently. And I'm not saying that to poke fun at it or something, but Natalya was this ultra baby face for years. People didn't care. People wanted her to get a push, but WWE didn't care. Now she turns heel, but she's super good on social media. So do people write her negative messages now?
At least Jericho lives it on Twitter,
Yeah, and that's great. People even think that's him. It's do that. You're expanding the show in a way that's interesting as opposed to confusing me. Damn you, Natalya.
Dang it. All heck, Natalya.
It's all Natalya's fault this week. Charlotte gets off easy.
That she does. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Terrence J., and he asks, what do you think Brock Lesnar is going to do for SummerSlam, and which brawl on Raw with Brock Lesnar did you like the most? The one with John Cena or the one with The Undertaker?
Definitely The Undertaker, because that was just an epic brawl that spilled into the backstage area and didn't end for 2 commercial breaks. So that was fantastic. Who do I want to see Brock face at SummerSlam? I would actually like to see Brock versus Roman again, hopefully, or I want to say Brock versus Dean, but then I'm like, no, it's not going to be what we want it to be. So I would pick Roman.
Now, this is going to seem a little bit hypocritical, but I would like to see Brock Kurt Angle as a closure storyline, not as this is the next step, but I'm coming back because in this WrestleMania moment over 20 years ago, over 10 years ago, this happened, and I would like to change it up. Now, Brock Lesnar can maybe even do the shooting star. We can get a cool moment in history that maybe we didn't get with Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, and other matches alike. So I would like to see that. And as Ryan said, the Undertaker one because that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, nothing will ever match that Undertaker-Brock Lesnar brawl. The fact it happened for like over an hour in different segments, I think is incredible. But as far as what I'd like to see him do at SummerSlam, face AJ Styles. Brock Lesnar is at his best when he is fighting somebody that has a very different style of wrestling than himself. And AJ Styles, I think, would be an incredible opponent for Brock Lesnar for that reason, and they could have a hell of a match. And that's what I want to see. So thank you for the question. Our final question of the show comes from TMK Tanner, who asks, do you think that Reigns would be more over in a mid-card scene instead of the main event? I think he would make a great US champion.
I mean, I think it's a little late for that. But could he have benefited from being in the mid-card for a little while? Yes, but I feel like they wanted to make him seem like a really big deal. So that's why they skyrocketed him to the sort of that pseudo main event scene. But I think that would have been a good idea to have him kind of get a mid-card title for a little while.
I agree with the question, and I also agree with your part, Ryan, where I think it would have been great initially, because it didn't happen, for him to get that. The same way Dean Ambrose became U.S. champion and forgot about that for like 3 or 4 months or something. But it would have been cool to see Roman Reigns not only be that top guy. I don't think everybody gets to be Brock Lesnar, right?
Yeah, I mean, what if he did the U.S. Open Challenge and just crushed people?
Yeah, like cool. It would have been great because it would have given you some sort of... We never saw...
Though?
Yes.
I mean, people would be livid, but...
Yeah, if Roman Reigns just crushed people every week, it wouldn't have had the same effect as the John Cena one, I don't think.
No, but it would have been a cool thing for a mid-card title to do with even someone who wasn't John Cena. Regardless, I think that U.S. Open Challenge would have no matter what, that would have benefited the title, but it meant that much more because it was John Cena doing it.
Yeah, I would have actually done that during the Shields run, like a bad guy Roman Reigns doing the challenge.
Yeah, just to like prove how dominant he is. But while I agree with you guys, I don't think it's too late for it to happen. I mean, if John Cena can win the U.S. championship and it doesn't seem that weird when we look back on it, I don't think Roman Reigns would be very different.
But that's
in
after
that situation.
Cena had just etched himself in history as like a top guy, where it's like Reigns is still at the point where if he fell down at the card, there's a chance he could never get back up there because like he's, you know what I mean? He's not John Cena status. He isn't. You know, he's not legend status yet.
At the same time, he's still considered one of those top tier performers. So it wouldn't. I don't think about it would lessen Reigns.
You know what I mean?
Thank you. That was the best example. Yeah.
Oh, that's a real good point.
I mean, there's a lot of guys where we forget. I mean, even Jericho is a good example, right? Like even Jericho was, the first ever undisputed champion, but he was down there for a while.
You can fall back down, The Miz, all that,
There you go. That is the real example, The Miz.
Okay, I have nothing. You guys are right.
I feel like Sheamus is still the better example because he's held like the most world titles of those people and was very much seen as one of the top tier guys for a while and has really fallen.
And I don't think he will ever be seen as a top guy.
No, I think he had his run. Hey, I mean, it's still a hell of a career.
Yeah. But yeah, Roman Reigns would have definitely benefited from that. But thank you, everybody, for all the awesome questions. We love getting them each and every week. WWE is at a weird point right now because we are on the road to number 1, episode 150, and then we are on the road to the WWE Draft, which will be taking place on the July 19th edition, the live Tuesday SmackDown. So as we said, remember, the podcast is going to be changing on Wednesday. And for
just one time.
Yeah, just that one time. Once. Just that one time. Really important.
It's a special show. Special broadcast.
One time. WCW champion Ryan, bring the joy to the closure of the experience.
I don't even know if that sentence makes sense, but thank you, Juan. Thank you guys for listening to another edition of the Byte That podcast. We had so much to cover that we didn't even get to the fact that, hey, Jerry Lawler and all this domestic violence stuff going on. So he's suspended. We don't know what's going on there. Is Corey Graves going to get called up? Then Paige, she was like sort of arrested, but not really. Now they're saying she like just had to go to the hospital or something, and then she gets a title match the next night on Raw. So who knows what the heck's going on? I don't even know, but I do know that if you have not hit that damn subscribe button for the YouTube channel,
hit it.
That you should hit it.
Punch that screen.
Hit that subscribe button because we have so much good content for you guys. 3 videos a week, man, including this podcast. You can go watch the draft that we did, the mock draft. This Friday, we're talking about managers in wrestling and their significance. And then, of course, we usually have a weekend discussion video. You can also get my full thoughts on Money in the Bank if you want to go into that more. That video is up there now. Check out our social media, Twitter at Byte That Cast, Instagram Byte That. You can check out our Facebook at /Byte That Cast. And the new, episode 150 is coming up soon. So we got some big stuff in 2 weeks, guys. So look forward to that. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.